Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. So kita lewat sikit start. Right, so for today, we'd like to continue with topic number 3, which actually relates dengan the topics that we've learned from the previous seminar, and let me share with you. Okay, topic 3, financial ratios and analysis. So if you recall, during our first seminar, kita dah go through topic number 1, whereby that's the introduction, and also and then topic number 2, kita ada the introduction of the financial statements. Kita revise balik the balance sheet, the income statement, and we also did what we call the cash flow statements. Okay, we learn how to prepare the cash flow statement based on the movement of 2 balance sheets and income statements, and to see how the cash flows from 1 year to the following year. Okay, so for today, still we're going to use the balance sheet and income statement as our reference. Okay, so balance sheet income statement akan jadi kita punya raw material ataupun raw data untuk kita punya analysis. And today we are going to go through the financial ratios. Okay, so just to see from the 3.1 here, types of financial ratios, sekejap lagi akan nampak lah, kita akan go through 5 categories. Okay, 5 categories of financial ratios, and each categories will have multiple financial ratios. Okay, kalau tak salah saya, from these 5 categories, we're going to end up with 23 different financial ratios. Okay, ada total 23 financial ratios out of these 5 categories. Right, and then we're going to discuss the types of analysis. Sebab bila kita ada financial ratios ni, kita ada 3 different we have 3, I can say 3 types of analysis. Okay, salah satunya kita ada trend. Mouse ni kacau. So we have trend nombor 1, kita ada cross sectional ataupun comparative. Sebenarnya yang ketiga, this is number 1, trend, cross sectional. The third one is actually the hybrid approach. So 3 types of analysis. Okay, and lastly, we're going to discuss what would be the disadvantages of doing financial ratios. Okay, what are the limitations? Okay, what is financial ratios is all about? So it involves analyzing current performance. Okay, cuma untuk current performance ni selalunya will be used by the internal managers sahaja, because like I said, financial ratios ni dia punya raw data dia datang dalam bentuk financial statements. Okay, and for public, the financial statements usually dikeluarkan ataupun accessible based on historical ataupun past data, not the current performance. Okay, macam contoh sekarang 2024 kan, so current performance company tak perlu release lagi. Okay, mungkin dia akan keluarkan some quarterly reports and whatnot, tetapi based on current performance, only internal managers yang boleh dapatkan lah that information. So when we talk about current performance of ratio analysis, only internal managers can access to that lah. Majority of people, including the public, akan gunakan financial ratios based on these past performances, and obviously based on actual statement lah. So selalunya kita boleh tengok ni from the annual report. Okay, annual reports of the company yang dia akan release at the end of their financial year end. Okay, macam untuk 2024 ni kita still dalam bulan April kan. So 2023 punya reports agak susah nak dapat lah. I don't think so ada company yang dah release their annual reports as of now. Sebab annual report untuk 2023 yang year end dia December contohnya, dia akan take a while untuk dia publishkan lah. So maybe expect it untuk diriliskan paling awal May or June. Okay, untuk tahun 2023. So as of now, April 2024, data yang paling terkini kita boleh akses mungkin hanyalah tahun 2022. Okay, based on the actual statement lah. Right, so the third types of analysis of financial ratios, mungkin kita boleh go through untuk buat what we call as pro forma lah, ataupun what if statements. Cuma untuk pro forma ni kita akan go through in detail in topic number 4. Okay, not today lah. So for today, my plan is to ensure that kita completekan the whole topic number 3, because topic number 3 ni important in the sense that this would be the reference for your group assignment. Okay, your group assignment will be based on financial ratios alone. Okay, kalau you ingat masa kita punya first seminar, one of the assessment adalah group project ataupun group assignment. Okay, whereby you need to prepare a written report and you need to do a video presentation. Okay, so both akan revolve around these financial ratios. Okay, so you need to clearly and understand this topic very well in order for you to prepare the group assignment. So it shows the relationship among the financial statements. Okay, so again, financial statement ni both balance sheet and also income statement, and are used by the investors. So investors ni selalunya those from external lah yang nak take extra attention to the company sebab dia nak invest in the company. Obviously they need to know the performance of the company, right? Especially those yang fundamentalists, fundamental punya analysis, yang focus on the fundamental analysis akan focus on the financial ratios lah. The internal managers, okay, ni the internal parties tadi, and any other interested party yang mungkin bukan investor, bukan managers, tapi that they have some interest to the financial ratios lah. Okay, contoh yang paling senang sekali, student macam you all, tak pasal-pasal kena focus ataupun you have to pay extra attention to the financial statements and also the financial ratios. Okay, and we use these financial statements to analyze and interpret. So there are two elements kat sini. First is to analyze. Okay, analyze ni selalunya you do your calculations, okay, based on the ratios. And secondly, from the output of your analysis, you have to interpret, okay, the results of the ratios for each ratios. Remember tadi kita ada 23 types of ratios. So each and every ratios tu ada dia punya dia punya explanation lah, right? And for these notes ataupun slides yang I share ni, for each and every single types of ratios, dia ada dia punya explanation at the bottom of the formula. Okay, right. So through this analysis, one is able to tell whether the company's financial standing is in good condition ataupun tidak. So it's really important for the users, as I mentioned earlier, because the ratio will indicate some element of performance. Cuma untuk financial ratios ni, okay, it is most important ataupun will be more meaningful, okay, if we can do analysis. That's why tadi 3.2 tadi ada types of analysis tadi kan, ada 3 tadi. We need to do any one of those 3. Dia tak boleh kita calculate ratio stand alone. Okay, we need to do some element of comparison, because as I said, financial ratio stand alone is not meaningful enough. So kita tak boleh tahu sama ada company ni bagus ataupun tidak based on calculation of one company contohnya. So we need to do some element of comparative analysis. So maknanya kita boleh ambil satu company and then we compare dia punya trend. Okay, one company but multiple years. Then we can see the performance up or going down. Or we can compare one company, company A versus company B. Even though it's just 1 year punya data, we can compare these two companies within the same industry. It is meaningful juga macam tu. Or we combine. So that's why tadi the third strategy is to do the hybrid punya analysis. So meaning we have multiple companies with multiple years. Okay, so we're going to talk about that later bila masuk 3.2 kejap lagi. Okay, so very important to the managers to uncover trends, to uncover the strength and weaknesses as well. So by having this information upfront, so they boleh take appropriate action lah, macam mana nak enhance ataupun improve the companies, okay, moving forward. So let's look at the types of financial ratios. So kita ada 5 kategori as I mentioned tadi. We have liquidity, leverage, activity, profitability, and also market and equity ratios. Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, for liquidity ratios, kita ada 3. We have 3 different ratios. Then for leverage, we have 3 as well. Ada 3 lagi ratios. And then kita punya activity, we have 5. Okay, 5 activity ratios. And then we have 6 profitability, and we also have 6 for market ratios, 12, 17, 20. So in total, we have 23 ratios. All right, so to assist you to understand how the ratios work, all right, I'm going to use annual pula. Kita akan gunakan past year question. Okay, past year question yang ada untuk kita go through the information lah. Okay, bear with me sekejap. Right, so untuk kelas sebelum ni, okay, based on the previous group kedua tadi, I use December 2018. Okay, December 2018 punya soalan untuk assist them to understand lah. So untuk group you all ni, I rasa I am going to use a different question. Okay, different question. This is based on June 2018. So ada few past year questions I dah share dalam YouFuture tu. So satu folder notes kan, satu lagi folder past year questions. So at least 5 year questions yang latest yang ada lah. Okay, latest walaupun latest kita punya final exam ended in 2018. Okay, maknanya selepas 2018, maknanya 2019 sampai sekarang, we don't have final exam anymore. Okay, so course ni don't have final exam. So for us to refer for the final exam, kita kena tengok yang last ada in 2018 lah. So every session yang online ni is recorded sessions. Okay, recorded sessions. So I share with you dalam link yang dalam YouFuture tu is your group. Okay, your group. Tapi if the video yang I share tu is based on the video I uploaded in my YouTube channel. So if you want to see other groups punya video, you can go to my channel and then you kena browse through lah. Okay, browse through group for the other group. Sorry, video for the other group. Okay, untuk tengok my explanation untuk yang tadi, group tadi, I guna December 2018. Okay, December. So kalau you nak tengok jawapan, kalau you nak try December 2018 punya soalan and you want to see the answer, go through the question ataupun video dari group 2 tadi, 2N lah. You guys 2M kan? So earlier tadi at 2 was from the group 2N. Okay, so this is how the question looks like. Dia akan bagi you the statements. Dia akan bagi you the balance sheet like this, and then dia bagi you what we call the income statement, full income statement, and then on top of that, they give you some ratios. So kat dalam ni ada 8 ratios and some set of instructions. Okay, dia bagi you first instruction, calculate the indicated ratios for this company. The company is named Supermax Berhad, so 12 marks. And then this will analyze the performance based on liquidity, activity, profitability, and leverage ratios as compared to the industry average. So the 8 ratios yang dibagi dalam soalan ni adalah ratio for industry, specifically the average industry. And what we need to do is basically to calculate the relevant ratios. Ada 8 relevant ratios kat dalam ni. And compare our answers against the industry average. Okay, so this is the raw data lah. So how to answer this question? So bear with me. Okay, I akan go back and forth between the notes, the question, and also kita delete ni soalan tadi So this one tadi December. So I'm gonna close the December punya question and focus on June 2018 lah. Okay, so akan ada 2 view. Okay, macam last week sebab I tak bawa balik pen ni. So our view just on I have to use my iPad last session kan. So today the view something like this. Kita akan ada dua view lah. View pertama tadi the PowerPoint, and second view is a split view between the question and also the answer on the right. So I'm going to share with you the steps macam mana nak calculate. Okay, so we have to go back to the question, to the notes. Okay, so that we can truly understand the process. So let's go to the first one. So the first category is called liquidity ratios. So this ratio measures the assets, specifically the current assets of the company, and we compare this current asset versus the current liabilities. Okay, so the current asset is the most liquid resources available to the company. So this liquid resources is actually referring to the current asset CA. And we want to measure how liquid the company with the availability of their current assets in order for them to pay the current and maturing liabilities. So this current and maturing liabilities adalah current liabilities lah. Okay, so these are the two things that we need to know in order for us to calculate the liquidity ratios. These two information available both dalam the balance sheet of the company. So as a basic rule of thumb, the liquidity ratios are considered good or the best if they have higher ratios. Okay, so the higher the ratios, the better for the company lah, as they represent the higher ability to make payments. Okay, kalau dia punya ratio ni terlalu rendah, it shows that they might have problems to pay dia punya short-term obligation. Contoh paling mudah macam ni lah, you ada hutang, katakanlah current liability you RM100. Okay, so we want to see your current asset ni cukup tak RM100 ni? So kalau current assets you RM50 contohnya, you have current assets of RM15. So from this alone, you can see I ada hutang yang kena bayar RM100, tapi I ada RM50 je nak bayar. So it shows that you have problems to pay already. Okay, you short of RM50. So this is scenario number 1. Or you can have scenario number 2, you have exactly RM100. Okay, you ada hutang yang you kena bayar dalam masa setahun RM100 and you have the exact RM100. Okay, you don't have excess. Okay, so this is also considered not good. Okay, less than RM100 is not good. Exactly RM100 is also not good. So there's another scenario, maybe you have RM150 kat sini. So the third scenario. So for this case, the company that has RM150 for every RM100 of current liabilities indicates that this person ataupun this company has excess of RM50 and it has sufficient current assets to cover for current liabilities. So the third scenario ni lah yang kita nak. Okay, so That's how we measure liquidity ratio. Okay, so under liquidity, as I mentioned tadi, all right, we have three different types of ratios. We have we have the current ratio, quick ratio, and also net working capital. Okay, but for liquidity ratio, just remember dua benda je. Kita nak tahu current assets dia berapa nilai dia, and number two, what will be the current liabilities. That's it. So all three ratios akan gunakan these two je. Okay, current assets and current liability. So let's look at the current ratio. So current ratio will measure the short-term solvency and indicates the extent to which the claims of short-term creditors are covered by the current asset. Just like what I mentioned to you just now, yang I gunakan RM100 dengan RM50 tadi. Okay, so the formula is current assets divided by the current liabilities. Okay, and the answer will be in times. Okay, ni bukan X ataupun usually we pronounce it as in times. So the higher the ratio reflects their ability to pay short-term obligations on time. Okay, so this is the explanation that you can use to explain your results of your ratio. Okay, untuk setiap ratio ni akan ada kat bawah ni dia punya explanation that you can use to do your analysis. Okay, so this is the first ratio. Okay, I akan tunjuk kat you cara kira kejap lagi after we go through all three ratios. So the second is quick ratio. Okay, quick ratio, which is also known as the acid test ratio. So this is the other name for the quick ratio. So some books ataupun some questions mungkin guna perkataan quick ratio. Some might use the acid test ratio. Okay, both are actually referring to the same thing. So sama macam current ratio tadi is actually to measure the ability to pay short-term obligations. Cuma when we talk about quick ratio, we add this element without having to rely on the least liquid assets, especially the inventories and also the prepaid expenses. So that's why the formula still ada current assets, ada current liabilities, but we have these two exclusion. Kita akan remove inventory and prepaid expenses from our value of total current assets. Okay, kita akan buang these two, inventory dengan prepaid expenses, out of our current assets before we divide with current liabilities. So obviously when we do current ratio dengan quick ratio, our quick ratio usually will be lower. Okay, the value will be lower. Right? And why these two are removed? Because as I said, these two current assets, sebab dua-dua ni ada dalam current asset juga, are considered the least liquid. So this one, the least liquid. Yang paling tak liquid dalam current asset adalah dua ni, inventory and prepaid expenses. So what does it mean by least liquid again? Least liquid means our ability untuk convert these two items, inventory dengan prepaid expenses, into cash will be the most difficult among the rest. Okay, paling susah nak convert into cash adalah inventory dengan prepaid expenses. Sama ada kalau kita nak convert, dia akan makan masa, satu. Secondly, kalau kita nak cepat dapat cash for these two items, we might have to sacrifice in terms of the value. Contohnya inventory lah, stocks. Kalau stocks you banyak, tapi you perlukan cash. Okay, kalau you nak let go inventory ni dengan cepat, what you need to do, you might have to give discount contohnya. Bagi discount to your customer, barulah mungkin stocks tu akan habis. Okay, so you kena sacrifice the value kat situ. Mungkin boleh cepat dapat cash, tapi you kena sacrifice the value as compared to the other types of current assets lah. So again, the answer also in times. High ratio juga lagi bagus because it shows the ability to pay short-term obligations on time. But like I said, tambah perkataan ni lah, without relying on inventories, also prepaid expenses. Okay, so this is our second ratio, quick ratio. And the third one is net working capital. Still gunakan current asset dengan current liabilities, cuma now kita minus. Tadi we divide current assets with current liabilities, but now we minus. So the answer will be in ringgit actually. Dalam ringgit Malaysia. So again, the higher the better. So the higher the value, it shows the amount of absolute ringgit of your liquidity. Macam contoh tadi lah, if your current asset 150, current liabilities is berapa tadi bagi example? 50 100. So you have 50 ringgit net working capital in absolute amount lah, 50 ringgit. Dia bukan dalam ratio. Okay, so the higher the value, the higher your liquidity, right? Cuma, when we talk about liquidity, we are actually in a bukanlah dilema, tapi kita nak make sure that our company has enough cash ataupun enough liquid assets untuk cover the current liabilities. Okay, kita nak current asset kita above ataupun way higher than current liabilities. However, we don't want it to be excessive. Okay, kita punya ratio ni, kita tak nak the current assets to be excessive as compared to the current liabilities. Why? One reason saja. Okay, because current assets usually associated with low returns. Okay, low returns, cash contohnya, ataupun marketable securities contohnya. So all of those return dia tak terlalu tinggi. Okay, is considered low return lah. So if we keep too many current assets, especially cash, you will become inefficient sebab kita tak boleh generate higher returns. Okay, so that's why kita kena balance out lah. We don't want our current assets to be lower than current liabilities, but at the same time, we don't want our current assets to be way above or too excessive against our current liabilities. So that's why by having these financial ratios, it will give the managers some figures that they know, okay, dia kena maintain banyak ni je, dia punya current assets, because current liabilities is an X amount of ringgit. So the remaining of the current assets, they can channel it out untuk kepada investment yang generate higher returns. Okay, that's again one of the benefits lah by having a financial ratios. Okay, ni apa benda yang cerita tadi lah, kalau dia excessive, it is not productive. So let's look at the question tadi. Okay, so I repeat, this is for June 2018 June 2018. Right. Bila you nampak je soalan macam ni, dia ada bagi two source of information. The balance sheet and also the income statement. So cuma balance sheet ni they use the terms statement of financial position, right? And for income statement they use statement of financial performance, right? So the first category tadi adalah liquidity. Okay, liquidity ratios. So the first one is current. Okay, and if you recall, the formula for current ratio tadi adalah current assets divided by current liabilities. Okay, right. Based on this question, okay, kalau macam soalan sebelum ni, they might give you sub categories of the information. Cuma dalam bentuk, for this final exam yang June 2018 ni, dia tak label tau. Cash ni current asset ke, land ni current asset lagi ke, sebab there's no label. But we know that dia split kan lah. So this side on the left is assets, on the right hand side adalah liabilities and equities. Okay. Every statements, dia patutnya ada dia punya sequence. Okay. So both sides, dia akan letak yang paling current ataupun paling liquid on top as compared to paling bawah. Okay, similarly dengan payables lah ataupun for liabilities. Yang paling cepat kena bayar kat atas and yang paling tak liquid dekat bawah. Alright? So that's the hint that you can take. Okay, but still you need to know each item tu belongs to which category. Still kena tahulah. Tadi ada masalah nak guna pen dekat dalam apa? Sila tekanlah. Yep. Okay, so for the first thing yang you kena tengok is we want to find current assets. So dalam your balance sheet ni, current asset ni ada 3 item je. These first 3. Okay, first 3 ni adalah current assets. Okay, cash, account receivable dengan inventories. And untuk liabilities, current liabilities dia adalah yang the first two ni. Account payable and also notes payable. Okay. Yang lain tu nanti kita skip dulu. So untuk first question ni, ataupun the first ratio, current ratio is based on the first three items of assets, and also two on the right here for the liabilities. So what we need to do is to total up the current assets punya values. For example, untuk Supermax ni dia punya cash is 35,000. Dia punya account receivable 60,400 ringgit, and also dia punya inventories is 95,800. So the total current assets for this company is 191,200. Okay, 191,200. And for the liabilities is 55,200 plus 56,400. So it's 111,600. Okay, I recap mana dapat current asset ni. Total dia 191,200 ni is based on the sum of the first three. Okay, 35,000 plus 60,400 plus 95,800. Okay, itu adalah total untuk current assets, the first three items. Okay, kita dapatlah 191,200. And for the current liabilities is based on the first two. Okay, 55,200 dengan 56,400. So you sum those two, you dapat 111 and 600. So what you need to do next, based on the formula, you just divide lah. 191,200 divided by 111,600 will give you around 1.71 times. Okay, 1.71 times. Okay, so what you need to do after you do the calculation? Okay, ingat tadi, first is to calculate kan, second is to analyze. So how to analyze? So you have this benchmark kat dalam soalan ni, benchmark ratio dia adalah 2.31 for current ratio. So this is the industry average. So imagine Supermax ni berada dalam satu industri. Saya tak tahu dia company buat apa. Dia tak mention kat sini. So dia katalah dia belong to one particular industry. So dalam industri tu ada 20 companies. So on average, okay, in that particular industry, okay, daripada 20 company yang ada dalam tu, on average, the current ratio is at 2.31 times. Okay, on average. Okay, tapi untuk Supermax ni, dia punya current ratio sits at 1.71 times sahaja, which is lower than 2.31. Remember tadi, untuk liquidity, the higher the ratio, the better. So dalam case ni, Supermax current ratio is less performing as compared to the industry average. So therefore, you can comment that Supermax Berhad. Okay, untuk ratio pertama ni I tulis lah in full tapi untuk the following ratio tu, you follow these templates. Okay, apa yang I tulis ni, how you want to compare. And for every ratio, macam saya cakap tadi, dalam notes tu tadi ada dia punya explanation kat bawah. You can use that to assist you to write your analysis. So contohnya kat sini, Supermax Berhad's current ratio is worse than the industry average. Okay, so that's the first part. So you compare dulu dia punya result tu lagi bagus ke lagi teruk. Okay, dalam case ni dia worse lah. Kalau better, just tulis lah. Supermax Berhad's current ratio is better than the industry average. Okay, boleh tambah the second part. First nak tunjuk better or worse. Second part is based on this ratio. Okay, let me share balik lah. Okay, yang ni tadi. Setiap satu ratio tu ada kan kat bawah ni kan. So jawapan ni in X tadi, in times. So higher ratio reflects ability. So dalam case ni dia ratio dia tak higher, dia lower. Kan, dia lower ratio kan. So you use this information and letak dia kat dalam ni lah. Okay. This it indicates, dia boleh tulis, this shows that the company has less ability to pay its obligation. Betul tadi short term boleh tambah lah. Okay, saya betulkan dulu. Short term obligations on time. So as simple as that, itu je. So ada dua elemen. Pertama, better or worse. And second, what does it mean? Okay, what does it mean related dengan ratio tu lah. Okay, so the keyword adalah tukar perkataan better or worse kat sini. And second is perkataan ability ni. Less ataupun more ability. More ataupun higher ability. Depending on the worse or better tadi lah. Okay, itu je lah some hints ataupun some tips macam mana nak analyse each and every single ratio. So that's the first one. The second ratio tadi adalah quick ratio. Quick ratio. So untuk quick ratio, formula dia adalah current assets minus inventories minus prepaid expenses. Okay, and divide by current liabilities. Okay, we know the current assets yang kita calculate tadi is 191,200. Okay, so we deduct inventories 95,800, sorry. And this question tak ada prepaid expenses. Kan? Tak ada prepaid expenses, so kita tolak satu je lah. And we divide by current liabilities of 111,600. So 191,200 minus 95,800 divided by 111,600. 0.85. Okay, so similar macam current ratio, the Supermax Berhad's quick ratio pun is worse as compared to the industry average. But industry average is 1.33. So dia 0.85. Okay, so you boleh tambah lah. Supermax Berhad's quick ratio is worse compared to the industry average. And this indicates that the company has, again, less ability to pay short-term obligations on time without relying on the inventories. So yang tu, ayat yang last tu ada dalam notes tadi. Okay, so very simple. And number 3 adalah net working capital. Okay, ataupun in short tadi, NWC. Alright, still using current assets and current liabilities, cuma kita tolak. So current assets yang original current assets dia is 191,200 minus with 111,600. So it's 79,600 ringgit. So this is the absolute amount of liquidity lah. Okay, untuk soalan nombor 3 ni, net working capital, we don't have any figures to compare. So that's why the ratio sometimes not really meaningful if you know the ratio on its own, standalone, as I mentioned. 79,600, bagus ke tak 79,600 ni? So it's relative. Some mungkin kata 79,600 ni besar. Some mungkin kata this is not enough, contohnya. So we cannot compare ataupun we cannot judge whether this net working capital is good ataupun tidak. As long kalau kita tak boleh compare dengan other numbers. Okay, so untuk soalan liquidity ratios ni, only number 1 and number 2 we can compare. And both of the ratios is worse as compared to the industry average. Okay, at least untuk soalan ni lah, Supermax Supermax Berhad. So that's how we do financial ratios. So hopefully you can get the idea. Okay, semua ratio yang 23 saya cakap tadi tu, the way we extract the data, the way we analyze it by calculation, and how we comment on it is more or less lebih kurang macam ni. Setiap satu elements, items tu kita kena cari based on either dekat balance sheet ataupun dalam income statement. So far, untuk current ratios, quick ratio dengan net working capital, kita hanya guna balance sheet sahaja. Right? But bear in mind, some of the ratio later on, mungkin akan gunakan income statement sahaja, or a combination between the two. Right? But so for now, for liquidity, memang kita guna balance sheet sahajalah, and both gunakan current assets dengan current liability sahaja without using any other information. Okay, so far lah. Okay, let's move on to the second category. Okay, second is leverage ratio. So leverage here actually refers to debts, hutang. Okay, when you see the terms leverage, we are actually using debts. Okay, and how dependent the company dengan hutang. So, kalau tadi liquidity ratios, the higher the ratio, the better. Okay, under leverage ratios, kita ada 3 macam cakap tadi ya. Out of these 3, there's one ratio yang lagi tinggi lagi bagus. The other 2, the lower the better. Okay, because when we talk about debt, obviously we want to have a company that has exposure to debts. Sebab kalau company tu debt dia terlalu tinggi, the high degree of indebtedness will result to high risk. Okay, akan melibatkan high risk lah. Sebab dia ada komitmen untuk bayar hutang dia setiap bulan ataupun setiap tahun. Tapi at the same time, untuk leverage ratios ni, ada satu measurement, we want to see how good the company's ability to pay ataupun to service its debts. Okay, so ada 2 ratio yang nak tengok the level of debts. But at the same time, there's one ratio yang akan measure the ability to service debt. Okay. So these are the 3 ratios. Okay, the debt ratio, okay, which also known as, nama lain dia, debt ratio ni adalah debt to asset. Assets ratio. Okay, ni nama lainnya lah. In short, kita panggil debt ratio. And then number 2, we have debt to equity ratio. And the third one is times interest earned. Okay, so these 2 ratio, debt ratio dengan debt to equity, the lower the ratio, the better. Okay, kalau yang ni times interest earned, the higher the ratio, the better lah. Okay, the higher the ratio, the better. Tapi kalau yang 2 ni, lagi rendah, lagi bagus. Okay, so let's look at the formula untuk debt ratio. Okay, debt ratio measures the proportion of the firm's total debts to its total assets. Okay, so that's why, kalau you tengok nama dia tadi nama ratio ni adalah debt to assets. Okay, so the name of the ratio is actually the formula. Okay, total debt to total assets. So this indicates the amount of debt in the financial structure. Sebab dalam accounting kan dalam T account tu kita ada asset kat sini. Dan dia ada debt dengan equity kat sini. Okay, debt ni nama lain dia liability lah, liability. So total debt ni is actually total liability. So we want to see how this total debt kat sini compare against the total assets kat sini. Okay, so it is important to analyze the long-term financial risk of the company. So the formula again is total debts ataupun we use total liabilities and we compare against the total assets on the left-hand side. And the answer will be in percentage. So when you see the answer in percentage, you have to multiply this with 100. Okay, I tak tulis kat sini, but technically you need to times 100 lah to get it in percentage. So the higher the ratio reflects higher amount of debt to finance assets. So that's why I said the better if to have a lower ratio. So kalau lower ratio reflects a less amount of debt to finance asset lah. So maknanya dia less dependent on debt untuk beli aset-aset dia. Okay. That's number one. Number two, debt to equity. So again, from the name, dia ada debt, total liabilities, and dia ada equity. So kita bahagi dengan total equity. Okay, sama juga, the higher the ratio reflects higher amount of debt in the capital structure. Tapi kalau dia punya ratio tu rendah, it shows that it has less amount of debt lah in the capital structure. So the ratio higher than 1 ataupun higher than 100% indicates that the firms has more debts. Tapi kalau ratio dia less than 1 ataupun less than 100%, it indicates that dia punya dependency on debt tu rendah. Okay, so higher ratio is less desirable. So technically kita nak ratio dia lagi rendah lah. You want the ratio to be lower as possible. Okay, and the third ratio is times interest earned. Okay, sorry. Sebelum kita move ni, jawapan dia dalam percentage kan, so jangan lupa darab 100 lah. Okay, tapi untuk yang the third one, since it is times interest earned, so the answer will be in times. Okay, tak payah darab 100 lah. So untuk times interest earned, we want it to be as high as possible. Sebab high ratio indicates the firm can meet loan charges and lower risk of defaults. Okay, maknanya dia ada keupayaan untuk membayar ataupun to serve dia punya loan charges. So you want it to be as high as possible. Okay, so let's go back to the question. Okay, the final year question. So this one, okay, you can screenshot. Nanti kalau dalam video I share pun, you can pause and screenshot. So I need to erase this. So the second category adalah leverage. Okay, so the leverage ratios. We have the first one tadi, debt ratio. Okay, debt ratio. So for debt ratio, formula dia adalah total debts bagi dengan total assets. Okay, remember total debt ni is total liability dia lah. Okay, total liability. So just now, kita hanya buat current. This is current This is current asset and this is the current liability lah. This side is the current liability. C, letak C. Okay. And untuk dapatkan total assets, is no issue sebab total asset kat sini. Dah ada dah. Kan this amount. This is the total asset. So the denominator, we already have 391,400. Okay. But we don't have the total liabilities just yet. Kita ada current tadi. Current liabilities is the combination of these two. So untuk dapatkan total liabilities, we need to add the current together with the long term. Okay, long term debt dia lah 79,600. So kita kena add all three. Maknanya current liabilities ada dua tadi. And then we add together with the long term. 55,200, 56,400, and also 79,600. So it's 191,200. Okay, 191,200 divided by 391,400 for the total assets. Okay, and don't forget to times 100 to get it in percentage. So 191,200 divided by 391,400. So it's about 48.85%. Okay, 48.85%. Okay, can we compare? Yes, because the question kata that ratio of the industry average is 57%. Okay, 57. But for this Supermax Berhad, dia punya debt ratio is just 48.85%. Okay, so again, we need to have a comparative amount untuk buat analysis. So, and for this case, yes, we can compare. So untuk debt ratio, as I mentioned, the lower the ratio, the better. So for this case, Supermax debt ratio is better as compared to the industry average. Okay, untuk ni debt ratio dia lagi bagus lah. Kalau tadi both current dengan quick, Supermax is worse as compared to the industry average. Tapi for this one, the ratio is better. Okay, the debt ratio is better. Right. And then you can use the explanation from the notes tadi lah. What does it mean by lower debt ratio tu? Lower debt ratio maksudnya kat sini the less dependence on debt to acquire the assets. Okay. So just daripada total asset tu hanya 49%, less than half digunakan debt untuk acquire their assets. Okay, as compared industry average yang gunakan 57%. Number 2 is debt to equity. Debt to equity ratio. So for debt to equity ratio, formula dia sama, total debts. Cuma sekarang kita divide dengan total equity. Okay, total equity. So equity dia apa? These two are the equity. Okay, dua ni preferred stocks and retaining are the equities. 73,200 dengan 59,000. So if I rewrite this, total debt kita dah ada 191,200. So we need to find the total equity lah, 73,200 and also 59,000. So 132,200 and then multiply with 100 to get it in percentage. Okay, so it's about 144.63%. Okay, for this one we cannot compare. Whether it's good or bad, we don't know because you cannot compare with the industry average because it's not given in the question. Okay, tapi for this ratio, it indicates that this company has a quite high debt sebab dia more than 100%. So the value of total debt dia lagi besar daripada dia punya equity. So meaning the company has more debt as compared to the equity, right? Cuma kita tak boleh compare dengan the competitor lah, we don't know, right? And the third ratio is times interest earned. Okay, times interest earned. So for times interest earned, the formula was earning before interest and taxes divided by interest. Okay, so where to get this information? So far kita hanya guna balance sheet saja, but for this time around, earning before interest and taxes ada dekat sini. Ada dekat this part. This figure is earning before interest and taxes, which is 451,800. Okay, and the interest adalah 39,150. Okay, don't multiply with 100 sebab jawapan dia dalam times. 451,800 divided by 39,150. So it's about 11.4 times. Ada yang tanya soalan ke? Dengar ada. Dia ada total of preferred stock and common stocks. Okay, let me see the question just now. Oh, dia ada 3 Okay, I miss that part. Kita tak nampak. Okay, yeah, you're correct. Sepatutnya 3 ni I miss 1 kat sini. You're supposed to add 3, these 3. So, yang ni tadi maknanya salah lah. Okay, tak apa. Kita rewrite this. We betulkan yang ni. $68 plus 73.2 plus 59. So it's supposed to be 200. 200,000. So 191,200 divided by 200. So it's supposed to be 95.50%. So dia punya debt tu lebih kurang. Bukan lebih kurang, maknanya lesser than the equity. Okay, it's less than 100% kan. Okay, but still we cannot compare lah. We cannot compare with the industry average. But we can say that the punya debt is lesser lah as compared to the equity, right? And going back to times interest earn, so the times interest earn is 11.54%. So dalam ratio industry average is about 12.4%. So the industry average has higher times interest earn. Okay, so times interest earn ni is just to show that daripada total interest yang dia kena serve 39,000 ni, dia ada income of 451,000 to serve ataupun to cover the interest. So dia punya coverage tu is about 11.5% ataupun bukan persen 11.5 times more. So technically banyak ni, tapi kalau dia compare dengan industry average is still lesser. Okay, so your answer nanti akan tulis, okay, Supermax Berhad's times interest is less ataupun is worse as compared to the industry average, which indicates that the company has less ability to pay ataupun to cover their finance charges as compared to the industry average. Okay, sebab interest ni sometimes they might use the terms finance cost. Okay, finance cost. Dalam annual report, you tak nampak interest nanti, they might use the terms finance cost. Okay, ataupun financing cost, ataupun financing charges. Okay, itu semua reflects dengan interest. Especially kalau company tu tak guna conventional lah, dia tak ada interest, dia guna yang Islamic contohnya, so they use the financing cost ataupun the finance cost. Kat dalam tu lah. Right, so thank you for highlighting ni. I tak perasan tadi ada 3. Untuk soalan tadi tu mungkin dia 2 je tu yang I assume 2 tadi. It's supposed to be common stock, preferred and also return earning for the equity. Okay, so dalam soalan ni, long term debt is the long term liabilities. Account payable, notes payable is the current liabilities. Okay. Any questions? Kalau tak ada, let's take a quick break. Alright, kita break sekejap before we move on with the third category. Okay, kita break sekejap lah before we move on with the third one. Okay, let's continue with the third category, activity ratio. So now for activity, kita ada 5 more ratios, 5 lagi. So the ratios will tell us how efficient the managers utilize all the available resources. So selalunya when we talk about resources ni, kita tengok dia punya assets lah. Okay, in order to generate sales. And sometimes activity ratios ni pun kita boleh letak dia sebagai effectiveness ataupun efficiency ratios lah. We want to see how they manage the assets and how they try to maintain dia punya expenses jugalah. Right. So the 5 categories ataupun the 5 types of ratios, kita ada average collection period, account receivable turnover, inventory turnover, fixed asset turnover, and also total assets turnover. Okay, so all the turnovers, ada yang turnover semua ni. Okay, untuk turnovers the higher the ratio, the better. Okay, tapi untuk ACP ni, for this ratio alone, the lower the better. Okay, yang turnover, saya repeat, semua ratio ni lagi tinggi lagi bagus. But for ACP, average collection, the lower the better. Okay, sebab nama pun collection kan, so kita naklah collect secepat mungkin. So the lower the ratio, the lower the number of days taken to recover, the better lah. Okay, and the rest ni sebab kita nak tengok how good their turnovers. Obviously kita nak turnover tu lagi cepat and lagi tinggi. Okay, so the first thing, the first types of ratio is ACP, average collection period. So it determines the average length of time taken. So bila ratio dia dalam time, kita gunakan ratio dia dalam hari. Okay, how long ataupun how many days taken by the company in order to collect the debts from the credit sales. Okay, remember when a company operates, sometimes they might give credit to their customers. Okay, dia buat sales, okay, tapi dia allow their client, their customers to pay on credit basis. So bila dia allow customer dia bayar credit, obviously dia kena buat collection. Okay, sama ada dia bagi the credit term seberapa hari untuk customer bayar, or sometimes they have to maybe buat reminder juga untuk buat collection. So this ACP will indicates how long on average will the company takes secara purata setahun tu, how many days taken for the company untuk dapat balik the sales tu in cash. Okay, masa jual tu credit tapi dia akan dapat cash tu later in the later period lah. Okay, so this ACP will determine how many days. So the answer macam cakap tadi, in days. So the higher the ratio indicates the firm has problem. So that's why kita nak ratio tu lagi rendah. Alright, so here the ratio indicates that we need to have the account receivable and kita nak daily sales. Okay, so kalau kita tengok tadi dalam kita punya soalan, there's no perkataan daily dalam sales. Okay, we just have sales. Okay, but here the formula is daily sales. So to make it easier ataupun alternatively, okay, I would suggest for you to use an alternative formula. Okay, formula dia apa? Account receivable sama. Okay, take the account receivable, you divide by sales, the total sales yang ada dalam soalan, but we multiply with 360. Okay, darab dengan 360 in order for us to get the number of days. Okay, use 360 you do not use 365 because in math, in finance especially, kita gunakan 360 lah to represent the average number of days in a year. Okay, so we use 360. Okay, so that's account ataupun the average collection period. Okay, so this is a formula yang kita guna lah. Okay, so we convert this daily to this 360. Okay, so this is the only ratio yang guna ataupun dapat dalam hari lah. So this is the only ratio and we multiply with 360. So the rest, mana yang turnover, kita tak payah darab 100. We use as is basis. Tapi whichever ratio yang memerlukan jawapan dalam percentage, we multiply with 100. Just like what we did before dalam debt ratio. The next one is account receivable turnover. Okay, account receivable turnover. So formula dia adalah sales bahagi dengan receivable. Account receivable yang sama tadi. So kalau you perasan, these two items sama macam yang ni. Cuma dia reverse. And kita tak perlu darab dengan apa-apa. Okay, so yang account receivable turnover is actually sales bahagi dengan account receivable here. Okay, cuma dia reverse. Okay, so this is the second one. So the answer in times, the higher the ratio, the better lah. Sebab higher ratio indicates effectiveness in collecting receivable. Okay, number 3 is inventory turnover. Okay, inventory turnover measures how effective the company uses its inventory to generate sales. Right, so again, the answer will be in times. The higher the ratio reflects effectiveness of inventory to generate sales, the usage of inventory. Okay, so this ratio is quite special a bit because this is the only inventory, the only turnover ratios yang ada, kita ada 4 tadi kan, that we are going to use cost of goods sold. Okay, sales ni ada, tapi sales ni secondary. We are going to use cost of goods sold instead of sales. Okay, cuma kalau lah cost of goods sold is not available, macam ni, if cost of goods sold is not available, then you can use sales. Okay, so sales ni is a backup sahajalah. Okay, sales ni backup je kalau tak ada. Okay, we are going to use cost of goods sold and we're going to divide it with the inventory. So the denominator adalah inventory and the numerator kita gunakan cost of goods sold. Okay, so the only turnover kan ada 1, 2, 3, ada 4 turnovers kat sini. So this inventory turnover je yang guna cost of goods sold. Okay, the rest of turnovers we are going to use sales. Okay, so turnover ni sebenarnya you boleh represent dia sebagai sales. So semua turnover ni adalah sales. Okay, kalau tadi ada account receivable turnover, maknanya kita ambil sales bahagi account receivable. Kalau untuk fixed asset turnover, kita gunakan sales bahagi fixed asset. And untuk total asset turnover is turnover, which is sales bahagi dengan total asset. Cuma untuk inventory turnover ni je kita guna cost of goods sold bahagi dengan inventory. Okay, yeah, so that's why I letak asterisk kat sini lah to indicate the difference. Untuk yang lain, fixed asset turnover macam cakap tadi, fixed asset turnover ni sales kan, so dia sales bagi fixed asset. Okay, and total assets is sales bagi total asset. So the words turnover ni can represent two things. Pertama, turnover adalah sales. And secondly, turnover ni boleh represent that the position of the items ni is turned over ataupun this the other way around. Instead of you bahagi total assets dengan sales, tapi dalam case ni you flip it over, sales tu dekat atas. Sales tu yang jadi numerator, denominator dia adalah yang kat atas. Dia macam bersilang lah. Okay, that's why turnover tu you boleh associatekan dengan dua itulah. Makna sales, turnover to sales, and satu lagi you turn it over the position of the items dalam formula. Okay, but all turnovers, the higher the ratio, the better. The higher the ratio is more preferred. Okay, now let's go back to the question. Okay, so this is the second category tadi. Now we move on to the third one. The third one adalah activity dia kan. So we have 5 ratios for activity. Number 1, average collection period. Selalunya kita panggil dia ACP lah, in short. So the formula was account receivable bagi dengan sales times 360. So account receivable dia is 60,400 and the sales is 850,200. Okay, darab dengan 360. So the average, sebab dia hari selalunya hari ni kita round up kan je lah, sebab 26 days. Okay, 26 days. So dalam ni ada ACP dia 23.6. Dia 23.6. So tadi ni kalau kita tak round up is about 25.6%, 25.6 days. Okay, since dia guna point, kita gunalah point juga lah. It's about 25.6 days. Okay, 25.6 days. So kalau compare dengan ACP from the industry, so the industry collect faster. Industri perlukan 23.6 hari saja as compared to Supermax yang memerlukan 25.6 days. So again, if you want to compare, you boleh cakap Supermax Berhad's average collection period is worse as compared to the industry average, whereby the company requires more days to collect its debt as compared to the industry. So performance why dia lagi slow lah, lagi lambat and lagi teruk lah. It's worse as compared to the industry average. Sebab industry average collect faster. So that's number one. Then kita ada number 2 tadi apa? Account receivable turnover. Okay, we have 4 different turnovers. So account receivable turnover. So ingat turnover ni adalah sales bagi account receivable. So sales dia kita dah tulis tadi 850,200 and divide by 60,400. 850,200 divided by 60,400. So it's about 14.07. 08 lah. 14.08. Okay, so we don't have items ataupun industry average to compare. So we just can calculate je lah. I just show you how to calculate this. Number 3, we have inventory turnover. Okay, remember inventory turnover, we use cost of goods sold divided by inventory. So cost of goods sold is actually bawah daripada sales ni 346 400 and we divide with inventory dia adalah 95,800. Okay, 46,400 divided by 95,800. So it's about 3.62 times. Okay, 3.62 times. Okay, ada tak untuk comparison inventory turnover pun tak ada. Okay, dia hanya ada total asset turnover saja. Okay, which is the last one. Okay, tak apa. So for inventory turnover, that's how we calculate. We use cost of goods sold. Letak asterisk kat sini because it's different. Bagi dengan inventory. Number 4 is fixed asset turnover ataupun FIN420 lah, fixed asset turnover. So formula dia go back to sales bagi dengan fixed asset. So sales dia is 850,200. Okay, untuk fixed asset dia ada 3 item kat sini. So kita akan ambil net. Okay, we use net fixed asset. So land dia 62,200 tapi kita punya plant tu kita kena tolak dengan depreciation. So 175,000 tu you minus with depreciation of 37,000 first. Then you get the net plant and equipment and then you add with the land 62,200. So your net fixed asset adalah 200,200. So 850, 200 divided by 200, 200, you're going to get 4.25 times. Okay, so number 4 pun kita tak boleh compare because we don't have the figure for industry average. But the 5th one, yes, we can compare the total asset turnover, T2. So formula dia sales divided by total asset. So total asset dia yang ni lah 391,400 tadi. So sales still the same, 850, 200. And the total asset is 391,400. So it's about 2.17 times. Okay, 2.17 times. So kalau compare dengan the industry average, the total asset turnover is 2.30 times. So again, the company's activity ratio from total asset turnover is lesser. Okay, so dia punya performance is worse as compared to the industry average. So dia punya generation of sales from the total asset is less as compared to the industry average. That's how you comment. Okay, so dia punya performance is worse as compared to the industry average, and it indicates that dia punya generation of sales is from the total assets is lesser as compared to the industry. Okay, lesser. Right, so this is the third category, activity. We have 5. Okay, just to let you know, kalau ikutkan soalan macam ni, you tak perlu calculate semua. You just calculate whatever yang ada saja. Right, but for the sake of, to explain to you, that's why I calculate semua ni. Okay, tapi kalau sebab you don't have test ataupun final mengenai soalan ni, for your assignment for example, dalam assignment nanti I akan specify ratio mana je yang you kena calculate. So you don't have to show all lah. Okay, you don't have to show all ratios. You just calculate whichever required sahaja. Okay, but for the sake of explaining to you, I show you everything lah, every single ratio yang ada kat dalam ni. Okay, so kita calculate tadi ada 23 kan. So I show you, mungkin tak 23 lah sebab yang last ratio tadi kita tak ada information. So at least akan ada 3, 5, 11, about 17 ratios. Okay, 17 ratios kita akan tunjuk lah. Okay, so this is the third category, activity. Let's move on to the fourth one. Okay, ratio yang keempat is known as profitability. Okay, so the key is profits lah. Kita nak tengok how profitable the company. When we compare against, tengoklah kita nak compare against sales ke, kita nak compare against equity ke, assets ke, depending on the types of ratio. So untuk profitability ratios in general, the higher the ratio is preferred. Lagi tinggi lagi bagus, kecuali ada satu je out of 6. We have 6 ratios untuk profitability, right? There's only one ratio under profitability ratio yang lagi rendah lagi bagus. Because for that particular ratio, we don't measure profitability sebenarnya. We measure the expenses. So obviously when we talk about expenses, kita nak expenses kita lagi rendah kan. Kita nak cost kita lagi jimat. So therefore, the lower the ratio, the better for that particular ratio. Okay, so these are the 6 ratios: gross profit margin, operating profit margin, operating ratio, net profit margin, ROE, ROA, return on equity, return on assets. Okay, so ada some tema kat sini. So kita ada 3 ratio yang ada margin. So the margin ni you boleh associate again dengan sales. Sama macam turnover tadi, turnover tu pun sales, so margin pun sales. Cuma untuk ratio yang ada perkataan margin ni, kalau turnover tadi kita flip kan, we flip the position. Macam contohnya total asset turnover, so turnover tu jadi numerator, total assets jadi denominator. Tapi untuk this margin ratios, simply divide je formula tu. Maknanya gross profit bagi sales, operating profit bagi sales, net profit bagi sales. Okay, so we go from the name of the ratio, kita divide terus je. Sama juga dengan ratio yang returns on equity dengan returns on assets. So this is actually kita boleh divide je return bagi equity, return boleh bagi dengan asset. So return ni is actually represented by net profits. Return ni sebenarnya adalah net profit. Okay, so we left with operating ratio. So this is the ratio yang lagi rendah lagi bagus. Yang the rest, the higher the ratio, the better. Ini dua lagi tinggi lagi bagus. But for operating ratio, the lower the better because we measure, like I said, the expenses. Specifically, we measure the operating expenses. Okay, operating expenses. So you dah dapat the hint of the ratio of the formula. So kita boleh tengok lah. So the first one is gross profit margin. So like I said, the margin ni tadi sales. So formula dia gross profit bagi sales. Okay, since the answer is in percentage, tak dengan 100 lah. Gross profit bagi dengan sales. So the higher the ratio, the better, as it indicates lower cost of goods sold relative to sales. So maknanya daripada jumlah sales yang kita generate, kita nak tengok berapa persen yang jadi gross profit. Okay, so maknanya kalau ratio dia tinggi, it indicates that majority of income yang kita masuk akan converted into gross profit sebab kita punya cost of sales tu rendah. Alright, so sama jugalah. This is the second level. Lepas gross profit, kita ada operating profit. Okay, I nak letak some similarities kat sini. When you see operating profit, technically it's also known as earning before interest and taxes. Ini. Okay, so kalau nampak perkataan net profit, it's also known as net income. And it also known as earning after tax ataupun EAT. Okay, so ni similarity dia lah, sama je. Kadang-kadang dia guna terms net profit, sometimes they use net income, sometimes they use earnings after tax. But actually all refers to the same thing. Tapi untuk ni yang pertama tadi operating profit, second is net profit. Okay, kalau operating profit, the similarity adalah earning before interest and taxes. EBIT ni tadi. Okay, so sama juga. Now we divide with sales from the earning before interest and taxes. High the ratio is preferred. And the yang ni I skip tadi, yang ni kejap. Yang the third ratio is net profit ratio. Net profit margin lah. Net profit margin is earning after tax. Kalau ingat tadi, earning after tax is actually your net profit bagi dengan sales. Okay, darab dengan 100. Okay, the higher the ratio, the better. Cuma untuk operating ratio saja, the lower the better. Lower ratio is desirable because we measures the expenses. Okay, operating expenses bahagi sales. Still bahagi sales, cuma kita gunakan expenses. Okay, the lower ratio indicates better efficiency. Sebab kita punya cost jaya kita minimizekan lah. Because when we minimize the cost, technically we can expect to get a better profits. Okay, better profits. That's why we kata if we have better efficiency, we can expect higher profits because kita berjaya mengurangkan the expenses. Okay, and the final two ratios tadi adalah returns, return on asset dengan return on equity. So remember, return tu refers to net profit juga, cuma kita bagi dengan assets for ROA and bagi dengan equity for the ROE. Okay, and all is in percentage. So semua darab 100 juga. Okay. So sambil tu kena tengok jam, takut terleka. Okay, so this would be the final categories yang ada example. Okay, sebab ratio yang terakhir, kategori yang terakhir tu we don't have example. Sebab untuk soalan macam ni memang dia gunakan 4 category saja. Up to 4 categories. The first category, liquidity, they ask you current dengan quick ratio. Then leverage, debt dengan times interest earned. And then for activity just now, it was total asset turnover dengan ECP. So net profit margin dengan ROA is the profitability, the fourth category. So for the fifth category yang market ratio, we cannot use this example. Okay, kejap lagi kita discuss lah. So now go back to profitability. Profitability ratios. So ada 6 ratio So boleh muat kat sini. So the first one, gross profit margin. Okay, gross profit margin. So if you look at the income statement, you can see there are 3 levels of profit. So the first one is gross. Ini pertama. Tak boleh tulis sebenarnya. Gross profit. Gross profit adalah level yang pertama. Level yang kedua, yang important is this one, earning before interest and taxes. Okay, earning before interest and tax. And the third one is this one, earning after tax. So itu dah the 3 levels of profits yang ada, ataupun yang important for us lah. Okay. So for gross profit margin tadi, formula dia is gross profit bagi dengan sales. Sebab margin to sales kan. So gross profit dia adalah 503,800 and we divide with the sales of 850,200. Okay, times 100 to get it in percentage. So 503,800 divided by 850,200. So about 59.26%. Okay, so what does it mean? Out of the 850,200 sales, this company generated 59.26% ataupun convert the sales 59.26% into gross profit. So the difference between 100% dengan 59 ni, about 41%, 40% tu adalah the cost of goods sold. So that's how we measure gross profit lah. So dalam ni gross profit margin tak ada, so kita tak boleh compare. Second adalah lepas gross profit is operating profit. Operating profit margin. So operating profit margin kita gunakan earning before interest and taxes bagi dengan sales. So earning before interest was 451,800. 451,800 divided by 850,200. Okay, 451,800 divided by 850,200. It's about 53.14%. Okay, obviously every level of profits tu akan menyebabkan dia punya margin tu akan makin lama makin sikit lah. Tadi 59, now 53%. Sebab we know the difference is actually the cost. Dalam case ni dia kena bayar admin expenses, admin cost dia ataupun operating expenses. So this is the operating expenses lah dalam case ni. Operating expenses dia adalah 52,000. Okay. I skip dulu tadi, I guna nombor 3 sebagai net profit margin. Okay, net profit adalah earning after tax. Okay, net profit bagi sales. Okay, net profit dia 288,855 divided by 850,200 times 100 to get it in percentage. It's about 33.97%, almost 34%. Okay, 33.9. See the declining of rates daripada 59 to 53 to 33. So sebab obviously akan ada things yang we have to pay. You have to pay interest, you have to pay tax. That's why it become lesser lah. Okay, tax ni pula 30% ni. So it's a huge chunk kena bayar tax. So tinggallah 33, almost 34% lah. Okay, the net profit margin. So net profit margin ni kita boleh compare. So net profit margin for this company is about 34%, higher than the net profit margin of the industry of 30%. Okay, so even though dia less liquid tadi, I tak ingat debt tadi berapa, dia lagi bagus. Dia less juga, less ability to pay interest. Dia punya activity pun lesser. Ambil lebih masa untuk collection. Total asset turnover pun lagi rendah, tetapi dari segi profitability dia lagi bagus. okay, it has higher profit as compared to the industry, especially for net profit margin lah so far. Okay, number 4 tadi operating ratio operating margin ataupun operating ratio, whereby we measure operating expenses bagi dengan sales. So operating expenses dia adalah admin expenses 52,000. So 52,000 divided by 850,200. So it's about 6.12%. Okay, again, we cannot compare. We don't know is it good or bad. Tapi dari segi operating expenses, it's just about 6% lah. So it's quite low lah sebenarnya, less than 10%. Okay, just to be quick kat sini, for this question, the earning before interest and taxes dia bagi 451,800. Okay, for the previous group tadi, that question December 2018, the earning before interest and taxes dia tak bagi. Dia hide this information. So how to find this 451,800 kalau dia tak bagi Kalau this figure tak diberi 451,800. Okay, what you need to do, selalunya dia akan bagi gross profit and then dia akan tolak dengan operating expenses. So you can ambil 503,800 minus 52,000 to get this 451,800. Cuma sebab ni dia bagi kan, so you can see lah, but if it's hidden ataupun dia tak tulis dalam soalan, it's basically for you ambil gross profit minus dengan admin expenses, or alternatively you ambil EBT, earning before tax. So in order to get earning before interest and tax, kita kena tambah interest tu. So we go reverse lah, 412,650 plus interest, which is 39,150, then you get 451,800. Okay, so to some trivia lah untuk earning before interest and tax yang tak diberi. The fifth one adalah apa tadi ROA, return on assets. So it's net profit bahagi dengan total assets. So net profit dia 288,855 divided by total assets of 391,400 times 100%. So 288,855 divided by 391,400. So it's about 73.8%. Okay, I finish it off je lah terus ROE. It's net profit bahagi total equity. So it's 288,855 divided by, okay, total equity ni tadi I tak tulis 68,000 plus 73.2 plus 59. So 200 tadi. 200,000, 200. 288,855 by 200. Okay, dia punya ni number figure dia lebih kurang sama 144.8%. Okay, so untuk ROA is 73.8. So if you compare dengan the industry average, the ROA for Supermax is better sebab higher than 68%. Okay, so it indicates that the company can generate higher returns by utilizing their total assets, okay, in order to generate sales, ataupun dalam case ni to generate profits, 73.8%. And the ROE tak ada comparison lah, tapi generally the net profits punya value is 44% higher than the equity, total equity yang dia ada. Dia total equity dia 200,200, tapi company ni generate net profit dia 44.28% higher as compared to dia punya shareholders punya funds. Okay, so that's profitability lah. So untuk ratio, the 4 categories, kita boleh gunakan both income statement dengan balance sheet. Okay, however, for the 5th category yang terakhir, Okay, market ratios. We cannot rely on balance sheet and income statement alone. So we need additional information. So that's why market ratio selalunya tak tanya dalam exam. Okay, tapi since you don't do exam untuk financial ratios ni hanya ada assignment. Tapi assignment akan ada market ratios. Okay, so market ratios ada 6. Ada the final 6. Earning per share, dividend payout ratios, dividend yield, book value per share, and also price earning ratio. So nanti you baca lah dia punya apa, the ratios. I hope you get the ideas. The ratio is very simple. Dia ada satu numerator, satu denominator, and then you akan divide the ratios and to get the answer, and you need to compare against the other parties lah. It can be other years ataupun other companies. Right, so untuk market ratios, we have earning per share. So the formula is earning after tax. Kalau you ingat tadi, this is basically is the net profit. Okay, cuma kita tak ada number of common shares dalam balance sheet ataupun income statement tadi. So number of common shares ni also known as number of shares outstanding. Okay, number of shares outstanding ataupun in short selalunya kita letak dia as NOSO, number of shares outstanding. Okay, so number of shares outstanding ni dalam units. So kita ambil net profit dalam ringgit, bahagi dengan units, kita akan dapat jawapan dia dalam ringgit lah. So setiap satu unit of shares tu berapa dia punya net profit kalau kita nak divide. Okay, so the higher the ratio the better to show to indicate that setiap satu unit share tu berapa proportion ataupun portion untuk dia punya earning after tax ataupun net profit yang dia belong, yang dia dapat lah basically. Cuma dia tak dapat dalam bentuk ringgit per se, tapi generally the net profit that belongs to him ataupun one unit of shares tu kita akan dapat dalam ringgit lah. So ringgit ni selalunya dalam, katakanlah whatever you divide ni, you akan dapat RM4.20 contohnya. So dalam ringgit in this manner lah, per share basis. So per share ni selalunya tak single digit, double digit, maximum 3 digit lah. Okay, tak mungkin sampai 4 digits. Okay, at least in Malaysian case, sebab kat Malaysia the most expensive stocks pun market price dia dalam 100 lebih. Okay, so the earning per share should be less than that lah. Second is dividend per share. Okay, dividend per share adalah amount yang dividend the shareholders are expect to receive. Okay, so the formula is cash dividend divide by shares outstanding. So ni sama yang tadi, NOSO juga, number of shares outstanding. Okay, so the answer is in ringgit as well. The higher the ratio, the better. And then the third one is dividend payout ratio. Dividend payout ratio is dividend per share. So from this, dividend per share bahagi dengan earning per share, the first one. Okay, so the dividend payout ratio indicate that berapa persen, okay, from the profits that the company generate, dia akan bayar dalam bentuk dividend. Okay, sebab when we talk about dividend payout ratio, okay, kita nak tengok from the net profit ni, berapa persen dibayar dividend, berapa persen dia akan masuk dalam retained earning. Berapa persen, kalau sini 1 juta, so dividend ni kalau 600,000 contohnya, so kat sini mesti 400,000. So kalau kita letak dia dalam percentage, so kat sini 60%, kat sini 40% lah contohnya. So from this relationship, macam mana nak cari dividend payout ratio besides using this formula? So sebenarnya alternatively you can use dividend in ringgit bahagi dengan net profit. So ini dividend ni bahagi dengan net profit, then you get the dividend payout ratio. Okay, so this is the alternative version of calculation for dividend payout ratio lah. Okay, whereby kita eliminate per share ni, kita tak ambil number of shares outstanding, kita just ambil dividend bagi dengan earnings ataupun dividend bagi dengan net profit. Okay, so this is the third one. The fourth one is dividend yield. So dividend yield kena guna market price. Okay, market price per share. So market price per share ni tak boleh lah knock off per share ni sebab market price per share ni memang price yang di quote dalam Bursa Malaysia. In Bursa Malaysia, we use market price per share basis. So dividend per share kita ambil daripada sini, yang ratio nombor 2. Kita bahagi dengan market price per share. This one kita ambil terus daripada Bursa Malaysia punya price lah, historical price. Okay, then we get the dividend yield. Okay, number 5, book value per share. So common equity kita boleh dapat dalam balance sheet tadi. Again, we divide with number of shares outstanding also. Okay, then we get the book value per share. And the last one is price earning ratio, PE ratio. So still market price per share yang I explained tadi, and we divide with earnings per share from the first ratio just now to get the PE ratio. Okay, so for all selalunya lagi tinggi lagi bagus lah. Alright, so untuk yang terakhir tadi, market ratio, we have to get additional information. So information ni either we get from Bursa Malaysia, for example, untuk market price, ataupun sometimes ada juga independent portals lah yang kita boleh dapatkan additional information with regards to market price. Kita boleh guna The Star ke, kita boleh guna Yahoo punya finance punya portal, Google pun boleh. Any investment related portals kita boleh guna jugalah yang ada simpan historical prices of the stock price of the company. Okay, untuk NOSO tadi, yang this one, sebenarnya kita boleh dapat dalam annual report tapi dia bukan dalam balance sheet ataupun income statement. Selalunya kita kena tengok dalam notes to the information tu lah, untuk item tu. Kena tengok dalam equity, dalam notes tu dia akan specify berapa sebenarnya number of shares available for the company. Okay. So at the end kat belakang ni, you can dia ada example with both balance sheet dengan income statement dia bagi, and then dia ada ratio-ratio yang setiap satunya, and some answers jugalah. So contohnya dalam ni dia dah bagi current assets, dia dah letak 146, dan current liabilities pun dia dah bagi 79. So nak calculate current ratio, dia dah kirakan lah 146 dengan 79, and then dia bagi jawapan. Then compare dengan industry average, which one is better. Okay, dalam case ni industry is better lah, sebab current ratio lagi tinggi lagi bagus kan. So for this company, dia less performing as compared to the industry. So then you compare lah the rest. Okay, sama juga market ratio tak available. So to wrap up the remaining 5 minutes ni, financial ratios ada cakap tadi, kita ada 3 jenis. First is trend analysis to compare the time series. So in short, it is one company, multiple years. Okay, at least 2, dalam ni dia kata at least 3 to 5 tahun. So expect this to be your benchmark untuk your assignment lah. Assignment akan memerlukan you cari 3 tahun punya data. Okay, tapi this is based on one company. Okay, that's time series. Second types, comparative. Multiple companies, 1 year. Okay, dia macam yang kita buat untuk final exam tadi lah, example for final exam. Ada 2 point of reference, satu company, satu industry for that one particular year. Okay, to compare lah, horizontal ataupun kita panggil dia cross-sectional. Okay, kita compare the firm's performance against the industry average ataupun against dia punya competitor. Tapi within the same time frame, which is 1 tahun je lah. The ones yang you akan buat for your assignment adalah combine ataupun as I mentioned tadi, hybrid approach. Whereby this is most informative sebab dia combinekan the trend dengan comparative. So apa maksud dia? Multiple companies. Okay, multiple years. Okay, ada 2 or more companies, at least 3 years. So this is more informative and lagi better lah dari segi assessment yang kita boleh buat. So that's why for your assignment, we're going to use this combined ataupun hybrid analysis. Okay, don't worry about anything just yet. Okay, I will post the instructions. Okay, instruction untuk assignment tu next week. So next week tu either tomorrow ataupun Selasa lah. We know that we are in the festive season kan. Hari Rabu, Khamis dah Hari Raya. So I don't expect you to do anything just yet. Tapi I akan post the question, the instructions tomorrow. At least tomorrow ataupun Selasa lah paling lewat. Hopefully esok kalau saya tak lupa. You can by now dah boleh lah agak-agak siapa nak di approach untuk jadi your group members. All the instructions, the group member berapa orang and so on, semua ada dalam instructions. Nanti you can check lah. And the deadline pun bukan dalam masa terdekat. I expect this to be maybe seminar 5 ataupun 6 nantilah for the deadline. Okay, so you have ample time to do it. Okay, some limitations, nanti you baca lah. Dari segi limitation, dia ada limited comparability kalau company tu terlalu diverse dan dia susah nak cari dia punya identical company for comparative purposes. Okay, that's number one. Number two, different accounting treatments, especially kalau kita buat comparative between company dari satu negara dengan negara yang lain, because they might have different accounting system. Okay, bila accounting system tak sama, different treatment of accounting, and therefore kita punya explanation ataupun comparative tu mungkin kurang accurate. Okay, that's number two. Number three, since ratios are using quantitative approach, the ratios tend to ignore the qualitative aspect. Qualitative ni dari segi contoh macam skill, experience of the manager, kita ignore lah tu. Kita tak tengok langsung sebab kita punya analysis purely based on statements, based on quantitative data. Alright. Number 4 and number 6 ni lebih kurang. Maknanya kalau data yang you pakai salah ataupun data yang window dress ataupun data yang telah dimanipulate kan, therefore output dia can be considered as false ataupun unreliable lah. Okay, they can be false ataupun unreliable data output kalau data yang kita ambil tu salah ataupun misleading. Right, and lastly, ratios are based on past data, so therefore kita tak boleh gunakan historical data ni sebagai future forecasting lah. So kita kena buat additional analysis, additional technique in order for us to do forecasting. So kita tak boleh guna financial ratios standalone untuk buat forecasting. Right, so I guess that's about it for today. End of topic number 3. So untuk meeting yang ketiga, kelas WhatsApp, saya tak sure lah ada ke tak. Obviously saya tak buat. Ada yang dah ada, saya tak ingat group ni ke group satu lagi. So you can check with the rest. Ada ke tak ada. Saya rasa macam tak ada. 2N lah. Yang 2N je ada. 2M tak buat lagi. So if you may, you can you can do and add me juga dalam group tu. Untuk better communication. Okay, as I mentioned previous week, untuk seminar ketiga sepatutnya kita dah face to face. Okay, seminar ketiga sepatutnya kita dah face to face. But on that day, on that particular day, 28 of April, I have something going on. I ada bengkel outstation. Right. So most likely I might have to do online juga. Online class. Cuma I know you akan ada face to face classes untuk earlier class yang pukul 2 tadi kan. So untuk kelas kita tu I might, okay, kalau apa-apa nanti I akan update. So better to have a group WhatsApp juga untuk inform immediately nanti. Sama ada I can do the face to face juga on that day ataupun I might have to use online session juga untuk our seminar number 3. Untuk seminar number 3 je, seminar 4 sampai 7 insyaAllah I'll be available untuk face to face macam biasa dekat Muncak Alam. Okay, so anything I will update you later. Right, any other questions? Phone number dalam syllabus. You can download the syllabus. Dalam syllabus ada my phone number. during my first seminar pun I dah share on the screen masa tu. Okay, you can download dalam YouFuture the syllabus. Dalam syllabus tu ada my phone number. Alright, so kalau tak ada yang lain, thank you very much. Dah masuk 6.32 ni, kita pun kejap lagi dah nak berbuka. So, selamat berbuka kepada semua dan insyaAllah next week lah kan. Selamat menyambut Hari Raya as well. So, siapa yang belum balik kampung, have a safe journey. And insyaAllah, I'll see you guys after the Raya. And I will update whether the third seminar kita jumpa face to face or we have to do the final online session on that day. Right, thank you very much. I'll share the video later in YouFuture juga. And if you want to see, like I said, the other group punya session, you can browse my YouTube channel tu untuk cari 2N punya session lah, sebab I guna soalan yang lain untuk your reference juga. Alright, thank you very much and insyaAllah see you guys later. Alright, Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, sir.
Alright, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Selamat Raya, bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, right, bye.